How are we doing, everyone? And welcome to another episode of the Big D podcast on Spunky Spectrum Sports. I'm here for my weekly contribution. Happy Monday. It's nice to be back on the show. And, before we get started, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Dylan's always pumping out great content. Doesn't matter which sport you're a fan of, Dylan's going to be covering it. So make sure to subscribe to the Spunky Spectrum Sports Network on YouTube and like the video. Also, if you listen on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure you subscribe there as well. All podcasts, either whether you like to watch video through YouTube or audio through Spotify or Apple Music, Dylan has you set up. But as I bring in the host of the show, your Big D himself, very happy from a recent victory, upset victory. Who knows? The Jacksonville Jaguars look like they might be back. But Dylan, welcome to your show.
Upset victory. I knew we were going to beat the Chargers yesterday.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, come on. Trevor Lawrence is looking like the GOAT.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Trevor Lawrence is, there's a quarterback controversy in the state of Florida right now. I mean, we've got Tua and Trevor balling out, and Brady, I'm not so sure he needed to step back onto the field. I think it would have made Giselle a little happier if he stayed home this season. But, I digress. Congratulations to your Jaguars. Obviously, my Miami Dolphins had a nice little win ourselves, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, as you just pointed out. How about the Miami Dolphins beating the Buffalo Bills 21-19? I bet your defense is awesome from being on the field 90 snaps yesterday. So did you think Miami could win? And what was the game plan for Miami to win?
Yes, I definitely thought Miami could win the game. Honestly, especially after watching yesterday's game, but really even going into it, I had this feeling, and now I'm pretty confident in it. I don't think there's a team in the NFL that the Miami Dolphins should be afraid of. I think that you could name any one of the 32 or 31 other teams in the NFL, and I think every one of them is beatable with this current state of the Miami Dolphins. So yes, going into the game, I definitely thought there was a chance, especially with the fact that obviously the Buffalo Bills were dealing with some injury issues. Their secondary was pretty depleted and even got more so during the game. Their starting center was out as well. So, full of excuses for Buffalo Bills fans. I've been seeing it for the last 24 hours. But, I did think, and as far as game plan goes, obviously, the number one thing you have to do is be able to contain Josh Allen. He's the best quarterback in the league. He's the most dynamic quarterback in the league. He can run you over or he can throw it over you. Either way, you've got to find a way to calm him down. And the Miami Dolphins built a game plan that was good enough to win. Did they necessarily deserve to win? That's a whole different story. You look at the stats. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills dominated in almost every single statistical category other than rushing, where the Bills really, it was Josh Allen, and that was about it. We didn't see much from Cook or Singletary yesterday. But really, you just have to contain Josh Allen and honestly make him make the mistakes, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. The amount of points that the Bills left out on the field yesterday, whether it was at the end of the first half where they had the botched delivery from the backup center to Josh Allen, they tried to do some fake spike and ran out the clock. Pretty relatively chip shot field goal they missed late in that game, and then obviously not being able to capitalize on that last fourth down at the goal line where Josh Allen sure skipped that ball into the dirt. But I think the Dolphins did as best as they could. You got to contain the superstar. Stephon Diggs did not really have that much of a game. He was on and off the field throughout the whole time. So, it wasn't the prettiest victory, but it's an in-division victory. The Miami Dolphins are 3-0, 2-0 in the division, 3-0 in the conference, and it's a great start to the season.
I'm going to say your Dolphins got very lucky winning that game. Buffalo dominated the game in every aspect, dominated time of possession, dominated plays, third down efficiency. But Buffalo made way too many mistakes. So missed field goal, mishandling at the end of both halves.
Yep.
Not just the end of the game, but the end of the first half, not getting a chance at another Tyler Bass field goal. And I think that he played a role with Buffalo because it seems like Miami's players didn't have a problem with it. And they were on the field for 90 snaps. But yet Stephon Diggs was in and out of the game in the third and fourth quarter. It seemed like Dawson Knox, the offensive linemen, were not ready for the heat and humidity of Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you make some fantastic points. You're absolutely right about that. The Bills. You look at the stat sheet; it's a very easy stat sheet to read and say, "Oh my gosh, the Bills dominated this game. They got lucky." But I mean, at the end of the day, or the Miami Dolphins got lucky. And yes, that is all true. I definitely admit that there was definitely a lot of luck. As I just said, I mean, the Bills left so many points out there that they had the opportunity to win the game for sure. But at the end of the day, you really look at the stats that matter. I mean, honestly, the turnover ratio, the Miami Dolphins won the turnover battle. Efficiency. I mean, you talk about third and fourth down efficiency, but efficiency throughout the entire game. The Buffalo Bills offense ran 90 plays in 100-degree weather against what had to have been a tired Miami Dolphins defense. I mean, when you think of that electric Buffalo Bills offense with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, it's the efficiency, that key word right there, was nowhere to be seen. I mean, the Buffalo Bills offense put up 17 points on 90 plays. The Miami Dolphins offense put up 21 points on 39 plays. I mean, you talk about efficiency, you talk about the turnover battle, and yes, it was sloppy. Yes, there was a lot of luck that had to do with it, but a lot of those stats that really count at the end of the day, the Miami Dolphins came out on top of. I mean, even the penalty battle. Penalties play a huge huge role in games. Miami's been struggling with that the first 2 weeks, and they won the penalty battle as well last night. So it's, yes, there was a little bit of luck. Yes, there was extreme circumstances, but it's the NFL. You got to be ready to play every Sunday in any environment. The Miami Dolphins aren't going to be using the excuse in December when we're going up there and playing in the snow. So I mean, there's home field advantage at every single NFL stadium. You just got to play the best you can on Sunday.
So somebody explain to me what happened late in the fourth quarter when Thomas Morstead accidentally hit his personal protector in the butt with a punt, because we all remember Mark Sanchez's butt fumble from that Thanksgiving game. I've never seen a butt punt.
Yeah, there was a couple plays yesterday that were somewhat relative flashbacks to plays that live in the National Football League lore. We'll talk about another one in a little bit here. But yes, the butt punt, as I think it's been tagged over the last 24 hours. I watch a lot of Pat McAfee, obviously a longtime punter in the NFL. He has broken down this play from 3 different angles with all of the insight. According to Pat McAfee, obviously it's a shortened snap. You only have 10 or so yards to punt that ball. You normally have a lot more than that. And the personal protector, the PP, he backed up. And in that situation, according to Pat McAfee, you always have to push forward when you're the PP in that situation. Unfortunately, Trent Sherfield took a couple steps backward, and he sure felt it. But fortunately for the Miami Dolphins, it didn't cost them the game. It definitely would have been playing all throughout Buffalo Bills Mafia Twitter if Buffalo had came out on top on that one. But fortunately for the Miami Dolphins, it didn't end up costing them. It almost seemed like a safety might have been the right play in the first place, just to be able to get that ball out. You kill off Buffalo's timeouts, and then you just hope your defense can stand up big, and that's exactly what happened. But I want to ask you, Dylan, just one last quick thing before we move on. Josh Allen is a fantastic quarterback in the NFL. Everyone knows this. He's a top 2 if he's not 2. I mean, he's up there. But we have seen in a lot of different situations, when that game comes down to the wire, every once in a while, Josh Allen kind of hides in his shell. He can't quite produce that final game-winning drive. Are you nervous about the clutch gene that Josh Allen may or may not have? Was this just an effect of the situation and the circumstance? Are you nervous about Josh Allen and his lack thereof, possibly, of that clutch gene?
I'm not worried about Josh Allen one iota. He's fine. But I see a problem with Buffalo. One, they almost remind me of Mike Tyson, because when Mike Tyson got in the ring, until he fought Buster Douglas, he would kick the crap out of somebody. But when he fought Buster Douglas that one night in Tokyo, he didn't have that jab. The Buffalo Bills are the NFL's best knockout artists. But Buffalo, I think Buffalo's lost the last 6 or 7 one-score games.
Yep.
The Bills are too over the line on Josh Allen. And I hate to say it, I love Sean McDermott. But I don't believe he is the right coach for this team. I think the Bills need an offensive-minded head coach because otherwise they're going to run Josh Allen to the ground just like the Panthers did with Cam Newton. There's a reason why Cam Newton's not playing the NFL right now. It's because Carolina all but abused him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And honestly, speaking of this Buffalo Bills Miami Dolphins rivalry and just the situation of everything, I mean, what makes me a little bit nervous for Buffalo Bills fans, and obviously this is coming from a Dolphins fan, but whatever. If I'm a Bills fan right now, I'm worried that our Josh Allen is going to be the new Dan Marino of the Buffalo Bills, a quarterback who is obviously elite level, one of the best quarterbacks in the league throughout his entire career, no doubt about it. But they don't have a run game. I'm sorry, but James Cook and Devin Singletary are not the answer for the Buffalo Bills run game. Yes, you can rely on Josh Allen to get the ball down the field on the ground, but you don't want, again, this is the other problem, and this is the other thing that would make me even more nervous is Dan Marino didn't run the football. He got the ball out of his hand within 2 seconds. He didn't have to run the football. But with Josh Allen taking the shots that he doesn't slide. He's just going to try and run through you. And the lack of a run game, I'd be nervous as a Buffalo Bills fan with an 0-4 Super Bowl record, by the way, that, Josh Allen, I mean, the Buffalo Bills are a very good football team, but do they have a full complementary offense, a full complementary team to really be able to win that big Super Bowl game that they've been hoping for their entire franchise history? So just a little shout out comparison there, but it's definitely, like you said, Sean McDermott's got some answers, some questions to answer, and he's really, I mean, they've been this good for this amount of time. They really need to make some progress and really need to be able to get to that Super Bowl, or else you're right, you might need to be looking in a different direction if you're the general manager of the Buffalo Bills.
All right, how about the Sunday night game between the Denver Broncos and San Francisco 49ers? I mean, for a long chunk of that game, it looked like the Broncos were dead in the water, but yet Russell Wilson finally looked like Russell Wilson, and the Broncos won a hard-fought 11-10 game. For a while, I thought it was the San Francisco Giants against the Colorado Rockies, but what did you think of that game last night?
To be honest with you, Dylan, it was unfortunately a bit of a snooze fest. I think the most exciting thing that happened in that game was Dan Orlovsky finally being freed from the not so historical moments of the National Football League. He was very happy on Twitter when that play happened, where Jimmy Garoppolo stepped out of the back of the end zone for a safety. Obviously we've all seen the clip of Orlovsky doing it, and I'm sure he's happy to have some company on that wall of shame, unfortunately. But honestly, it was a disappointing football game. I know the San Francisco 49ers have had a lot of promise this season. That took a big hit last week with Trey Lance's season-ending injury. But they still had to feel confident with Jimmy Garoppolo at the quarterback position. He knows the system. He's a guy who's been around the league. He's not the worst backup in the NFL, to say the least. So, I mean, an 11-10 football game, fortunately, I didn't watch a big portion of it. I'm just, it's just shocking. It's a crazy NFL season so far. We've been hyping up this NFC West division for so long, or AFC West, I'm sorry. And now we have the Denver Broncos, who really look like a shell of a team. I think, yes, Russell Wilson stepped it up a little bit late in that game, but that Broncos team is not nearly as good as I think a lot of people were expecting them to be, at least as far as how pretty football they're playing. We know the Kansas City Chiefs lost to a very hard-struggling Indianapolis Colts team yesterday, and the Las Vegas Raiders are 0-3. So, we were calling the AFC West the AFC best, but I'm not quite sure that might be the case anymore.
Do you what's with Denver's struggles? Because we've seen that Aaron Rodgers struggle with Daniel Hackett as the first year with this Hackett Matt LaFleur system in Green Bay. Could it just be that Russ is learning a new offense after spending a decade in Seattle?
Yeah, I definitely think that has a big part to play with it. I saw something. I saw a recap of the game last night, and what a lot of people were noticing were that there was a lot of passes that Russell Wilson was putting on target to his receivers that were just going through their hands. I mean, you got to think about these Denver Bronco receivers last season. They're getting passes thrown to them by Drew Lock. It's a lot different than catching a ball from Russell Wilson. I mean, the zip he puts on the ball, the accuracy. I think I've seen a lot of Broncos receivers who might be not expecting the ball to be put in that situation or get there that fast. It's just a lot of, I mean, anytime you're a quarterback in the National Football League, I mean, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world as far as in sport, at least in sports. When you're a new quarterback on a new franchise, you're going to have those chemistry bumps up and down throughout the beginning of the season, especially, fortunately Tua has done a little bit better of a job as adjusting with his new wide receiver partner. But yeah, I think it's a lot to do with chemistry. I think it's a lot to do with their defense seems fine. They held San Francisco to 10 points this week. The rushing game, we want to see a little bit more from Javonte Williams, but he's not. I mean, he had a 3.9 average, 15 carries for 58 yards. I mean, it's not the numbers we really want to be seeing out of Javonte Williams, but I think it really is just some chemistry. I think they have the talent on the team to succeed in the league this season. It might be taking a little bit longer than I think Broncos fans were hoping it would.
All right. So thinking back to week one where the 49ers and Chicago Bears played in that monsoon, I mean, there's at least one or two crazy weather games a year, whether it be rain, snow, wind, or freaking cold. So Alex, what is your favorite cold weather game, favorite bad weather game that you can remember?
My favorite bad weather game, I'm going to tug on a little bit of biasness here, but I would have to say it was, I believe, week 1 or 2, I want to say 3 seasons ago, where the Miami Dolphins and the Tennessee Titans broke the record for longest NFL game in NFL history. Because of the weather, the game was delayed for hours and hours and hours. I had a couple friends who were at Hard Rock Stadium for that game. They stuck it out, surprisingly enough, throughout all the weather delays and with all the just bad conditions overall. So at least in my recent history or recent memory, that is definitely one that stands out to me. I mean, fortunately, the Miami Dolphins were able to go on and beat the Tennessee Titans in that game. But it was that's definitely one that stands out. How about for you, Don?
I tried to go back in history a little bit, and I thought, what game would make sense? And I'm thinking, 2007, it was an absolute monsoon between your Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what I remember about that game, it wasn't just rain. Literally, if you punted in that game, the ball would just stick to the grass. Like, I've never seen a ball just like stuck. It would look like it's kind of, the ball literally left the opponent's leg and just stopped. Like, it went nowhere.
Yeah.
And it was almost an impossible game to score. And the Steelers won that game 3-0. Think for you Dolphins, that was the 11th of 15 losses that year. In fact, I think Cleo Lemon was the guy who won Miami's only game of that year against the Baltimore Ravens, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Greg Camarillo in overtime. Never forget it.
So it's weird when you think of crazy weather games. I mean, I remember Megatron being the snow shovel in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
With some of those cold weather games.
I mean, we know Tom Brady has had a couple weather historically known for their weather games, whether it's the Tuck Rule or whether it's the snowplow game. So, well, I guess that's just the Patriots in general. But Yeah, it's fun. And that's the crazy thing about the NFL too. Is I mean, you start your season in September, you come down to Miami in week 3, and you're playing in 100-degree weather, and then just a couple months later, you can have a game below zero at Lambeau Field. I mean, it's just on Christmas Day. So it's just it's what we love about this game. I mean, it's everything where you saw, I mean, I'm sure you saw the clips of Roquan Smith and Justin Fields in that torrential downpour week 1. I mean, them sliding all over the field, doing water angels on the field after the game. I mean, it's, these guys are having fun. Obviously, you want them to stay healthy, not get sick because of any poor conditions, but it definitely makes for some interesting football, we'll say the least about that.
Hey, and you know what? Deal with it. So what if it's raining? So what if it's cold? So what if it's windy? So what if it's snowing?
The other team's got to deal with the same thing. I mean, there's no excuses when it's a level playing field.
I mean, maybe Hard Rock Stadium should have made when both teams are in the shade, but we'll leave it at that.
Hey, home field advantage, baby.
Okay, that's enough.
All right, so I think it's probably about time for one of our favorite segments on the show. It's been as a member of the fan club of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you wouldn't think that Dylan would have a lot to rant about this week after a fantastic upset over the Chargers, but alas, there is. Dylan, I know you have a rant, and the floor is yours, sir.
Well, for once, I'm not ranting about my team. I don't know what else to say. I mean, 38-10, we've won the last 2 games, averaging only allowing 5 points against Matt Ryan and Justin Herbert. But my rant is not on the Jags this week. It is on who the Jags beat, because I cannot explain what the LA Chargers did with Justin Herbert yesterday. First off, did you see what kind of an injury Justin Herbert came into yesterday's game with?
Yes.
A rib cartilage issue.
Yep.
And I've never played football, but having any rib injury would not be fun, right?
Doesn't sound fun to me.
And you know what happens when you get rib injuries? They give you some kind of a pain-killing shot.
Yep.
And we remember, I think it was week 2, 2020, when Tyrod Taylor tried to play, but he couldn't play. And literally 5 seconds before the game, we all found out Herbert was playing against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But why are the LA Chargers playing Justin Herbert week 3? And I understand every game matters, but this is a 17-game season, and he's your franchise quarterback. Why the bleep is he playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars? Herbert barely practiced, if at all, this week, and now you're sending him out there against one of the NFL's best defensive lines. Give him a week off. You're probably not winning the game anyway. Your center's out. Your best wide receiver's out. You're without a couple key guys on the offensive line. Oh, yeah, enjoying the game. Rashawn Slater tore his bicep, potentially done for the year. And Joey Bosa hurt his groin. I mean, the LA Chargers are like the walking wounded every year. But Justin Herbert should not have played. And I'm not just saying it because I'm a Jag fan, but be honest, you can't risk Justin Herbert, because if he gets some kind of an injury and can't play the rest of the year or is not effective, you basically wasted a year of him. And then late in the game, when the score was 38-10, yes, 38-10. Do I need to repeat myself on the score?
You do not.
38-10. Guess who I saw playing in the last 2 minutes of the game? Justin Herbert. Brandon Staley, are you a freaking moron? Why is Herbert playing a 38-10 game? I mean, can you score 4 touchdowns in a minute and a half?
I don't think it's physically possible.
I mean, we saw the Jets score 2 in a minute and a half last week, but I don't think you can score 4 in a minute and a half.
A couple more onside kicks.
Maybe get a Greg Zerline to bump about 5 onside kicks, but even that won't. Why is Justin Herbert playing? And I understand you want to give him every snap, But at that point, you're not winning the game anyway. Your left tackle, center, wide receiver out of the game anyway. Get him off the field. Put Chase Daniels, somebody in there. Just finish the game with no more injuries. Because the LA Chargers always get hurt. And if Justin Herbert gets some kind of a rib injury or whatever injury, your season's over.
Yeah.
You're not winning the AFC West with Chase Daniel in the center. I can guarantee you that. At that point, I mean, the Chargers know the game's over. You wanted to, but you already knew Kansas City lost, so why even play? Why even play? You got Houston next week, so you can get him healthy for that game, and then you're 2-2. You still have Kansas City coming to your bill late in the season. Get him healthy, get him ready, and you'll be fine. Why Herbert even play in that game makes no sense. We've seen teams be conservative. I mean, the Green Bay Packers didn't play David Bartlett, either tackle the first game or two coming off injuries. We've seen teams be the Baltimore Ravens didn't play J.K. Dobbins the first 2 weeks, and he looked okay yesterday. So why would the Chargers play Justin Herbert when he's your franchise leader? Give me a bleeping break.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up perfectly. It's ridiculous. I mean, I understand that the LA Chargers, they're wanting to take an advantage of an opportunity. The Vegas Raiders go down to an 0-2 start. The Denver Broncos don't look too great, and the Kansas City Chiefs are off to a flying start. So going into this game, you're sitting there saying we could really use this game. It's only a 17-game season. We win this game if the Broncos go down, if the Raiders go down, if the Chiefs somehow lose the Colts, which end up happening, the Chargers can kind of propel themselves into a good spot there. I totally, I wouldn't start Justin Herbert in that game, but I see why they at least wanted to give him the opportunity to go out there and see how he feels. But the part that's the craziest thing about all of it, which you absolutely nailed, being down 38-10 with less than 5 minutes in that football game and still sending Justin Herbert out there. That is a recipe for disaster. You already have an offensive lineman who got hurt during the game. Now he's out for the season. And, you were smart enough to leave Keenan Allen on the sidelines for the entire game. Why risk it? Why have Justin Herbert go out there without his best receiver, with a banged up team? And like you said, the LA Chargers are known for getting injured. I mean, over the last couple, at least in the 2020 season, since they drafted Justin Herbert, the Chargers have looked like a contender. And the idea that the main reason why they haven't been a contender is Derwin James will go down in preseason, or someone gets hurt, or this guy gets hurt, or this guy gets hurt, or Eckler gets hurt. I mean, it's why they would take that risk, why they would look at this Jacksonville Jaguars game and say that, we're getting blown out, but we still want Justin Herbert to get injured reps against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, it just blows my mind. It's disrespectful to their fans, I would even say, because they are taking their golden boy. I mean, obviously Chargers fans love Justin Herbert. They are putting him at risk. And for what? I mean, it's obviously, we know the Chiefs lost yesterday. We know the Raiders lost yesterday. The Broncos were able to squeeze one out, but it's not as runaway as this in this division as we thought it was going to be. I mean, it's a long football season, and the Chargers, as you said, were morons for playing Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and hopefully Justin Herbert's not feeling the ill effects of of not only losing the game, but having the Jags defense all over his backside 3.5 hours. But it's rare you can celebrate back-to-back wins and do for your team nowadays. All right, Alex. So thanks for hopping on today. We wish you well. Hopefully, everybody can get through Hurricane Ian nice and safe and sound. And do you want to say your weekly?
Yeah. Thanks for having me again, Dylan. It's always a pleasure to be on here. Thank you again for another DraftKings victory, by the way. Pulled out on that one. Thank you, Cordarrelle Patterson, last second edition. So, we got the win going into next week. I think I'm 2-1 on the season in our little matchup there. So I'm excited to keep that run going. And as always, Fins all the way up, all the way to the top of the AFC, baby.